one big concern that I know fans are having, and I still have it, is obviously the quarterback position. We've talked about that position at length. We talked about it during our pregame coverage. Spencer, I thought, was okay. He didn't make any mistakes that were egregious, certainly none to the level of Michael Penix. But here's one fallacy of watching a game on television. I'm sure you can relate to this in a very, very severe level as far as it relates to you as a coach. But we can't see down the field on television. So We're watching Spencer take these drops, and I see him over and over again get flushed out of the pocket and end up throwing the ball away. Now, that doesn't count as an interception, obviously, because it's not. But it does count as an incompletion. And you look at his percentage, his completion percentage, well under 50% for much of the game. I think he got it close to 50%. You may have that in front of you, Don.
I'll have it here in just a second. I believe we were something like 13 for 28, maybe.
Yeah, so that's not good. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat this. That's not good. So what did you see from your vantage point at the Iowa game today as far as what he had on the field? Were their receivers open consistently? Was Spencer missing them? Or was it just a really good effort from the IU secondary?
I'm on the wrong season here. I think receiver selection still needs some work. There were times, when he sees the video, he'll wonder why he progressed the way he did on a certain play here and there. His ball accuracy wasn't always on target. There were a few times he has some difficulty throwing on the run, especially if he's running to his left. He's right-handed, and that's a little bit more difficult. I'd like to see him, when he does flush, go ahead and attack the line of scrimmage to the point where, I'll say it this way, it's okay not to throw the ball away. It's okay to pull it down and run for 3 or 5. Doesn't even mean you have to get hit. So often when he flushes, of course, when he finally lets go of the ball, he's near the boundary anyway. So there are some opportunities to make a few positive yards without throwing the ball away. I think that'll show up when they study the video too. I think he did a good job of getting us in and out of the huddle and getting lined up. And, we were never much of a threat to suffer a delay or anything like that. So those mechanics are all just fine. Indiana struggled with that certainly more than we did. They had some difficulties with the crowd noise, and now they have an appreciation for what it's like to play in Kinnick. It's not as easy as people think. They think it's only 70,000, so how loud could it be? Well, it's not very different than 100,000 somewhere else, as you know. So I'm concerned that we didn't run the ball better. We outrushed them. That was important. That's one of the keys to winning the game was to outrush Indiana. We did that. But let's face it, 50 or 60 yards came on one play.
Right.
So beyond that, we did not have good consistency in terms of consistently making 4 yards. We didn't have that kind of consistency. Thankfully for us, Indiana struggled even more. We certainly outrushed them by a fair amount. Their longest game was not much at all. I think maybe they had 2 super explosive plays, I believe, 30 yards or more. A couple of times they got loose on us. But let's face it, my gosh, they hardly had over 200 yards offense. That's good defense. And, of course, we kept them out of the end zone, too. So that's a lot of reason to celebrate on defense.
Got a comment here for you, Don. Event Tide says, we need to get the ball to the wide receivers more often. We do have a talented wide receiver group. Future recruiting of top wide receivers will probably suffer if we don't use such weapons. I don't know that it's a matter of, and I'm not saying Event Tide is alluding that it or inferring that it's a matter of play calling, but at times you've got to wonder, again, as a fan, how much is Spencer just missing? I mean, because there were plenty of pass plays called in this game, Don, and I thought it was a well balanced called game. There were a few calls from Brian that I probably would have nitpicked at. I thought a few of the third down and medium calls were a bit iffy. There were some run plays that I probably wouldn't have called, but I'm no play caller myself, Don.
I remember fairly early, 3rd and 7, we ran the ball, and I didn't understand that because we weren't likely to make 7. But
and we didn't make any of them that we ran on those third downs. So that was, but I thought Brian played called an okay game today.
One thing I found myself thinking as the game played out, it didn't seem like we made any kind of concerted effort to get the ball to number 3. He didn't have many touches. He is one of our more electric players. I like Charlie Jones and I like McGaney. Those are good receivers too. But let's face it, Tyrone Tracy's capable of giving us a lot more than he did today, and it wasn't certainly all his fault. The ball didn't come his way very much at all.
Don, a couple notes that I made, and of course one of them relates to that comment about Tyrone Tracy. The underthrown pass to Tracy in the second half. Okay, that's going to be a pass play that I look back at and will stay frustrated with, because it reminded me almost of Nate Stanley overthrowing TJ Hawkinson back in 2018 in Happy Valley. There was no one within 10 yards of TJ, and he just threw it probably 5-10 yards past TJ. And this one was, again, in the NFL, Tyrone could have gotten back up and ran. But in college, you're down, you're down. There was no one around him, and I'm sure you could see that from your seat at the stadium.
Yeah,
how bad
was
that
replay,
underthrow?
but it looked like they simply didn't see it.
Yeah.
Is that what happened? There was nobody. There was no defender out there with his width.
There was no one covering him. You're right. Yeah, I mean, it was.
Caught it and almost jogged in.
So, I don't know that you need film to see that if you're Spencer. How do you address that if you're Brian Ferentz and Ken O'Keefe?
Well, one thing I used to teach, and I had the advantage of using an example. I flew helicopters when I was in the Army, and I always talked to the quarterbacks about having a consistent scan. If you're flying a helicopter or an airplane, you have to consistently scan all of the instruments that are in the plane or in the helicopter. And you're looking outside the aircraft too, but you better pay close attention to all those instruments. And there's a logical way to scan those instruments. And I use that as an example to the quarterbacks. I want you to do the same thing as a quarterback. I want you to consistently scan the field. And I don't care which way you do it. You can start left, scan to the right. I'm talking about from one perimeter to the other, scan to the right, and then finish back over the ball. Or you can start right, go left, and finish back over the ball. It doesn't matter. You just need to have that routine so that you're scanning the field all the time. And it's important because it gives you a better chance to see that short side corner that lit him up one time. You remember the lightning stuff from the corner? You can see that sort of stuff. And you're doing it every play, so they can't say he's always going to look where he's going to throw. You're looking at the entire width of the field on every snap. It needs to be just part of your routine. It's just ingrained. You do it without even thinking about it after a while. And maybe he saw number 3 out there uncovered. But if he did, the simple thing to do is just raise up and throw him the ball. And we threw it a little bit later and a little more down the field. And obviously, maybe if we'd thrown it to him as he lined up, maybe he wouldn't have scored. I don't know. It would have been a mad race to the goal line, I think. He might have scored. I'm not sure exactly where the nearest defender was. But that's an unfortunate miss. That's one that should have been a touchdown and was not.
And I don't want to jump all over the place, but Charlie Jones was seen, at least shown on the TV monitors, limping to the locker room, not putting very much pressure. I don't know if it was the left or the right knee, Don. Maybe you saw it, but that did not look good. And I have not heard yet from Kirk Ferentz in his post-game presser anything about that, and he likely will not know. But what were your thoughts on the injury to Charlie? Well,
first off, I like Charlie a lot. As a receiver, I like him as a kick returner, punt returner. He's obviously proven in the specialty team part of the game that he's a valuable player. But I think he can make a solid contribution as a receiver too, and he proved some of that today. I don't know the extent of his injury. We had several guys that were dinged up a little bit, and of course one of them was number 7 on the touchdown run on the Q draw. I said the other day, I didn't expect Penix to run the ball a lot because I don't think they want to subject him to any more hard hits than necessary. And sure enough, I don't think there was a single call play with Penix carrying the ball. Honestly, I don't know if he ever broke the line of scrimmage. I was a little surprised that he didn't press the line of scrimmage harder. Now, sometimes on a naked or on a bootleg play, he had a viable target and he threw the ball to the target. But in general, I thought we would see him some of the time pull the ball down and simply scramble for positive yardage. It didn't happen. He didn't seem very interested in running. Maybe he had been told not to take those hits, to try to get the ball to someone else across the line of scrimmage. And he had some success doing that, but not a lot. You know, we did a good job of staying in coverage, and we didn't give up a lot of plays just because he had bought a lot of time in the pocket. You didn't see that. But the sad
He's
part,
very stationary. I
yeah, he
felt he
didn't.
was even more stationary than Spencer, honestly.
Yeah, you know, it appeared that he's not very comfortable yet coming off that knee surgery, I
Yep.
guess. Whatever the case, you didn't see that. You didn't see that runner that Pro Football Focus talked about. They talked about his escapability. You didn't see that today. And part of that is we did a good job of staying at home. He didn't have just some really, really obvious running lanes where he could pull the ball down and run for. There wasn't all kinds of green grass in front of him. There was some from time to time, but it looked like he had the same mindset that Spencer did. If at all possible, I want to throw the ball. So I'm looking to throw. I'm not looking to run.